Hello, my name's Tina Juvoven. Welcome to my messy studio. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce you to our group. We are the West Sound Printmakers, and we came together as a direct result of the first ever Ways Goose Steamroller Print Festival in downtown Bremerton in 2018. We all met because we were invited to show print works at the CVG Gallery on Pacific, right there in downtown Bremerton. And quite honestly, it was like moths to a flame. I've never been in a room, a small room at that, with so many other printmakers. Once we got our heads together, we couldn't stop talking about printmaking this and printmaking that. And we decided we would form a group and help to promote printmaking in Kitsap, to organize more shows and help each other with the very diverse medium that is printmaking. So I hope you enjoy our show as the print goes on, and please feel free to contact any of us directly if you are interested in purchasing our prints. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
I'm Melissa Pothier. I'm a printmaker in Port Orchard, Washington. A lot of my work is printed on fabric, towels and napkins, or bases for three-dimensional or mixed media pieces, and a lot of clothing. Typically when I print on fabric, I'm using a soft, flexible block to print with. I find that I can get a really nice print using these with fabric. For the series I did of Carousel horses, I knew I'd be mostly printing on paper. So I used a more traditional linoleum block. These were all designed and hand carved and then printed. And this series is all Carousel horses from the Pacific Northwest. And all of these so far have been carousels that I visited as a child or I visited with my own son. So they all have special memories. I first printed them all in black ink. And then they were watercolor painted. And the design of the actual horse is based on one or two horses from each of the carousels. And the designs around it are motifs and patterns you can see within the actual carousel. Kind of surrounding the horses or on the exterior of the carousel. And I try to use some of the colors that were used in the horse itself. This is a horse from the Jansen Beach Carousel in Portland, Oregon. This one is from the Spokane Loof Carousel in downtown Spokane, Washington. This is from the Point Defiance Zoo Carousel in Tacoma, Washington. This is from the Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, Washington. A theme I have in a lot of my work is animals and floral designs. I love illustrating those, as well as imagery that kind of invokes childhood memories or childhood happiness. And I think carousels, especially for me, and I know for my own child, have a lot of nostalgia and a lot of good memories attached to them. And having shown these to some people, I think it's true for many other people as well.
Hi, my name is Erica Applewhite, and I'm a block print artist. And most of my work is quite small, and so I can keep them in these little antique metal drawers, each labeled by what's inside. In the last couple years, I have been doing larger pieces that are made up of smaller pieces like you saw in the drawers. I keep them on these shelves, and it works very well, kind of like a pizza tray, to keep all the parts together. This is the Carlisle 2.
Hello, my name is Leigh. Welcome to my studio, Knowles Studio. And I am showing you a print that I had the privilege of doing with West Sound Printmakers for the Blowdale show. And this has 6 runs. And a reduction print is all done with one piece of linoleum, in my case linoleum. And I start with printing the lightest color. And so we're gonna come over here. The lightest color was yellow. So I carve away where I want white to be, that no ink will ever go on those spots. Everything else is printed with yellow. Then I carve away every place I want the yellow to show up. And the next lightest color was a delicate green. Then I carve away everywhere I want that green and yellow to stay. This is a limey green. Next is a darker green, a forest green. Next is a rust brown. And it's hard to tell because I'm carving away little tiny bits all over. But this is where this little mouse kind of comes into the scene. He wasn't in the scene in the lime green piece. The last one is the key image, which is black. And that's what you see left on the plate. And as with printmaking, you can see it's always a mirror. When you carve, it's always going to print backwards, if you will. And the final print looks like this. The only thing I did by hand was I cheated and added some color into the eyes. But you can see here every step. You can see the creamy yellow, the soft green, the darker green, the lime green, the rust, all through the image. And then the black is just showing up in little bits here and there. And the border.
I'm a Northwest artist. I paint mostly, but I'm kind of a novice printer in as much as I've started printing again after years of not doing any printing. What I print mostly is what they call a collograph, which is a plate which is built up and then inked and then wiped off. And when you wipe off the ink, the rough textures hold the ink and the smooth parts get wiped off. So this is the resulting print. I also do linocuts. This process is kind of the opposite in as much as you are going to print the high spots and not the low spots. This is carved out. We take this as a linoleum print. You carve out the low spots you don't want to print, then ink it up with a brayer and make your print.
Searching for beach glass became a bit of an obsession for me during the early period of lockdown in 2020. I would just look forward to leaving my house and walking down to the beach and just keeping my head down amongst the rocks and shells and looking for something beautiful and looking for beauty amongst things that were broken. That made sense to me during that period. To recreate the look of glass on paper, I found myself really experimenting a lot with transparency and ink and making small little plates where I could ink each one up individually, put them down on the paper where I wanted, print them, and then use multiple plate techniques behind the glass and in front of the glass in order to give it some depth and some texture and interest. But looking for beauty in that very trying time, which we are still in, but at that time it was very new, and focusing on something other than the current situation helped get me through it. I was inspired to make this piece because of my love affair with modern art and seeing that whenever I go to the Seattle Art Museum. I could probably walk around in the modern art wing for, well, hours, and I have. There's a piece there, Man and Mouse. It's a very large sculpture that totally takes over the room, and the mouse is sitting on a bed, sort of a dream sequence or something, a nightmare perhaps. But I thought that I would incorporate that little mouse, that big mouse, as a little mouse in my piece. And it's about the way that I feel when I look at art, how it inspires me, how it makes me want to make more art. There's a yearning there. And I haven't been to the museum in so long. It's been probably a year, long overdue, over a year. And so I'm excited to go back. This piece was about being excited about art. Modern art everywhere.
Hi, I'm Bernice Walls with some Printmaker, and also I do painting. In printmaking, I prefer monotype and monoprints to other methods because they are related to painting. This is my press. This is the plates that I use in that monotype process, plexiglass and zinc. When I paint on them, I paint on the surface, and I register them, both the plates and the paper. And that way, after you've run them through the press and you aren't quite satisfied, you can paint again on the surface and run another run through. That paint will transfer to the paper under pressure. The painting is a lot like painting on a canvas, except when you put it through the press, you get a very different response. Monotype is more immediate, and you often get surprises, sometimes good, sometimes bad. The thing I like so much about painting and doing monotypes is the mystery involved. I start out, I don't really have a really good idea of what I am going to do. It evolves as I work. And sometimes my medium leads me, and sometimes I lead my medium. And oftentimes surprises come, and you take advantage of those surprises. Also, you sometimes have to wipe out and start things again. But it's like scientific research. You don't exactly know what the answer is or where it is, and you just keep seeking until you find it. And that's what is so intriguing about this process. At this period in my life, I'm somewhat limited. I come to the studio 2 to 3 days a week. I'm still seeking and still learning and enjoying the process.